Hello, Jose Rodriguez back again. This will be my last video before I go on the trip. There's been a lot of discussion of the Pro 100 from Canon, the inkset from Precision Colors, and also the inkset that were tested by Ardenburg. And recently, Mark McCormick basically has not been able to finish the complete testing process of all of the different samples he received, not just the ones I sent him, but many others. It costs a lot of money to run that system because it's using an incredibly high cost light source, and that costs a lot of money. So he has put a halt to the continuing testing because basically the funding is gone. So if you are interested in seeing light fastness results in various printers, paper, and ink combinations, you got to realize this doesn't grow on trees and it needs funding. So I would suggest, if you find it upon yourself and if you have a great interest in this type of testing, to go to the ardenburg.com, I believe it's called, the URL, and consider donating via PayPal a few dollars. That will really immensely help their ability, because they only work on funding from us viewers. So consider doing that. The same thing with this channel. That's how we survive. Without that income, I cannot do anything here. I can just talk to you guys till my tongue is dry and bore you guys to death. I will not be able to show you things. I will not be able to show you new papers, new inks, new printers whatsoever. All right, let's talk about then the results. The current results are, of course, they sound ominous, but really they are not. Pro 100 dye inkset, highly fugitive. That means that it fades. Okay, but you have to realize the conditions they are being subjected to cause that fade. And compared to the Canon OEM inks, which are the best, most light fast dye inks in the world today. Okay, the formula, it is a nationally kept secret, like the Philadelphia Project back in the 40s. Yes, it is that tight of a secret and proprietary. And of course, no one can duplicate those inks. Even if they wanted to do it illegally, they just have not been able to. So the best you can do is to have maybe inks that are, say, a tenth as good as far as longevity goes, as far as fading via oxidants, meaning ozone, or light fading. So when you get a Megalux rating for a particular ink paper combination, that really does not apply to a common real world fading result. It's hard to put it under those terms. His control situation, he knows so much exposure to light, given amount of time, causes this amount of fading. Here in my room, for instance, I have a window that's basically shaded. I only have that one over there open. So I have a certain amount of light, and that light changes during the day. So the exposure to light of my prints that are on the wall, even though they haven't changed an inkling, okay, in years, is variable. The same thing upstairs. How about the famous picture of Nathan, printed on Palo Duro paper from Red River, done on the Pro 100 Precision Colors inks. It is under glass. It has not faded the least bit. This print will not fade for probably, or not show any signs of fading for probably 10 more years. And I have similar other prints. My daughter has a sunroom with south, east, and west facing windows, lots of light. That's why it's a sunroom. And I have prints basically leaning against the window on frames of the boy, and those are also as they were when I first produced them. So it's all relative. Something that's rated highly fugitive, meaning that it fades, say, 10 times faster than OEM, Well, that may be the case, but what does that mean in real world type situation? Person had a bunch of prints done with Precision Colors dye ink for the Pro 100, and they fade in a few months. Well, you live in a highly oxidant full or prone area. You live in an urban area like Los Angeles, Chicago, New York, where there's a lot more ozone in the air. And if you have your prints unprotected, not in a frame, not under glass, they're going to show signs of fading. The brown fading, it goes into a brown kind of look. That's because the black fades and the yellow also fades. The yellow produces a bluish. When the yellow goes, you get a bluish bias. When the black goes, you get a brownish bias. So that's what happens. But again, does that happen the same in every part of your house? No. So it is very, very variable, and it depends on what area of your house, you have your prints exhibited. I have some prints, a bunch of prints in my daughter's hallway leading to the stairs. They receive moderate of light, enough for you to be able to look at them and not have to squint, not have to turn the lights on. And those are, again, as they were when I printed them. And it's been like 4 years. Now, earlier I showed you a print that I did of my daughter when she was a baby, greeting me when I used to come home from work. I had to digitize that because the original silver print was showing signs of fading. Now, that print was probably 43 years old, because she's 44 now, 45 almost. I think she's 45. So let's say 44 years old. She was only a year old when I made it. Well, now it's showing signs of silvering, which is a problem that happens with silver prints if you do not use a more thorough washing process, which none of us did. It was never enough washing. Well, 40 years from now, they start to become silvery. You have to scan them, you have to restore them, and at least print on a good paper, good inks, and hope for the best. That's it. So maybe 20 years from now, I'll have to reprint that image. Who knows what we will be doing digitally in the realm of digital home photo printing. It may not even exist at that point. Who knows? We don't know where it's going. So yes, so don't take this too seriously. It is highly dependent on your conditions. Like I said, I have prints here. That was done with dye ink. That was done with pigment ink. That was done with pigment ink on the 2200, the old Epson 2200. You cannot see that because it's out of camera range, but believe me, it's right there. And at this point, nothing has happened to it. So for a testing process to take an existing original OEM ink set and compare it to a third party, of course, the third party is always going to lose. Okay? They cannot possibly match OEM. You know why? Gosh, I'll tell you the secret. Why? And let's take, for instance, pigment inks from a third party source. There are only about 3 known labs in the United States that produce pigment inks for inkjet printing. Only 3. And they are the major distributors to a myriad of resellers who claim that the inks are theirs, but in reality they're using inks from those 3 sources. They are not doing any more than necessary than to get the required colors so that they have the color palette taken care of, filled out, and then they sell them to you. Some other company will actually tweak the hell out of those inks until they are as close as possible chromatically to OEM. And then they work further to make sure that there's no bronzing, there's no gloss differential, and all of these other side problems that inks made from pigments produce. Okay, so what do you expect? You're also using inks that cost you about 1/8 of what original inks cost. So there's no way you're going to get your cake and eat it too, have your cake and eat it too. It's impossible. You are paying 100% for OEM, I expect 100% performance. If I'm only paying an eighth of the OEM cost and still get 80% performance, I think that's not a bad ratio or a bad set of odds. That's not bad odds, let's just say. And that's the case. Now, other inks, maybe 50%, maybe 60%, because they don't take the time to research and tweak and color match the inks on that set. They have to be able to work together. Magenta is not magenta all the time. Yellow is not yellow all the time. Cyan is not cyan all the time. And blacks, oh my God, don't let me start with blacks. They do differ. So when you put together an ink set for a specific printer, you have to take into consideration the printer's print engine, how it handles those colors, how it distributes the dots, how it mixes them. It's not the same. Pro 9500, Pro 10, totally different. The way it treats the inks that it has, mixes them together or dithers them together. We won't get into the details, but you know what I mean, and how it reproduces colors. It's not about profiling. Profiling can only do so much. You have to start with a almost near perfect ink set, and it's not going to be perfect because none of the third-party providers or none of the 3 companies that produce inks have access to the pigments raw sources that the Canons and the Epsons and the HPs have access to. They have proprietary providers that are only providing these specialized pigments to them. There's no way the other third-party companies can even get close to those particular sources of raw materials. So that's it. That's the reason. So don't worry so much about when somebody says, well, it's going to be 1/10 the longevity. Well, longevity 1/10, let's see, to 200 years. Oh, I'll take 40 years any day if I'm only paying an eighth of the price. You see, it's all relative, and it's all relative to your lighting and your conditions. So don't worry too much about that. Now, let's finish up the week. God, I can't wait for Sunday. Pro 1, they're working on a improved ink set for the Pro 1 as well as the Pro 10. It has to do with the red and the magenta. That's all I will say. Pro 1000, still working on it. It might be another 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 12 weeks, who knows. But once it is done and I put out the good news, we can rely on the fact that it's going to be as seamless a transition as possible. That's all I can tell you right now. Let's hope for the best. Like I said, I don't know of any other company that is as dedicated to the consumer and as dedicated to quality. So what can I say? And I have nothing to do with them money-wise. Today he called me. We spoke for 2 hours, discussed all sorts of things. The guy is an engineering genius and knows the inkjet system inside and out. A lot of resellers don't have a clue how any of this actually works. All right. Thank you so much. Don't forget to subscribe, share, and like. Please wish me a happy trip. I am going to come back exhausted, I'm sure, but I'm looking forward to seeing my angel of a mom and at least see Nathan, see her. I don't know how many more times he's going to be able to see her. And it's not only that, it's because she's also losing her eyesight. So this is going to be fun, I hope. Okay, thank you so much again. Happy printing, everybody. Bye-bye.